Hey everyone, it's Dr. Ramani here. Have you ever worked with someone toxic? I mean, if there was a show of hands, I'm guessing all of you are raising them. So let's break this down. I think on this channel, I actually don't talk about the workplace enough. I think we get so caught up in the narcissistic partners and parents, but the workplace it affects us, right? And everyone talks about the toxic bosses, but it's the toxic colleagues are tough, right? These are the people who are at your level, who don't really have power over you, who don't report to you either, right? These are people who might be at your level of training, seniority, expertise. And yes, they present unique challenges in the narcissistic workplace world. They may more easily be the wolf in sheep's clothing in a way, because with a colleague, you may not hold back the way you would with people who report to you, but you also may not be as careful as you might be with a boss or a manager or a more senior leader. There may be more of a, I'm going to let my hair down with this person because, yeah, we can hang as colleagues. You perceive them as more of an equal within the institution or place you work. Anyone who has ever had toxic or narcissistic colleagues may reflect on how those colleagues made the day-to-day of the job absolutely miserable, and even more miserable than, for example, if you don't have to deal with a boss every day, which may be the case. Sometimes you have to deal with colleagues every day. Boss is more occasional. So let's break down some of the ways that a narcissistic colleague can affect you in the workplace and some of the signs to look out for. So first, they will throw you under the bus. Not that they might, they will. This may be that I'm starting this list out with one of the harsher things that can happen, but it can and it often does happen. Toxic colleagues might throw you under the bus to advance themselves, to get validation, or just get the perks they want. They sacrifice you. This may involve lying about you, telling decision makers that you aren't interested in something when in fact you are. They may say that you messed up with a client or got something in late, which may or may not be true. I've got to tell you, back in my professor days, these were the folks that would drop a dime on you for stepping out and maybe not being at your office hours or letting a class out a little bit early. It makes sense, right? It's manipulative for them to do this. It gets them what they want. It puts them above you and in a more superior position. And they don't care that you're being harmed, so you simply become a pawn in their larger ambitions. Second, they withhold information. Now, any of you who has ever worked with narcissistic or toxic colleagues will remember how they would somehow forget to tell you something really important or just tell you part of something, but whatever it is, they were withholding information you would need. And maybe you missed that information because you were out sick, you were out in the field, you had another thing to do, you were doing something else that had to get done and you showed up late to the Zoom meeting, or maybe they got the information during some sort of sidebar meeting that you didn't know about, or because they ran into someone in the hallway. And that withheld information may mean that you miss a deadline, or you do something you didn't need to do and waste time, or that you may not learn about a new policy or a schedule change. Something that, may leave you looking foolish, certainly, or that you end up doing something wrong or missing something or wasting time, and it might just get you reprimanded, right? And then you may get gaslighted by the colleague or even by a supervisory person who may put it on you and say, well, it was your responsibility to figure it out. How are you supposed to figure out that someone's withholding info, right? Third thing about toxic colleagues, they are passive aggressive. Now, this may show up as the silent treatment, them handing you a problematic bunch of paperwork right before the end of the day, even though they had it all day long because they're mad at you because the boss complimented you the day before. Maybe they don't talk in a meeting where they feel that they aren't getting their way. You know the drill if you've had a passive-aggressive colleague. Their passive aggressiveness may and often will result in people having to walk on eggshells in the workplace, or people feel the need to appease the passive aggressive colleague and give in to avoid the discomfort that's caused by this behavior. Fourth, it's a given that all narcissistic and toxic colleagues are entitled, and they often maintain double standards. They will feel that they could sort of saunter late into a meeting, but will raise all kinds of hell if other people are late. They will expect perks or resources that no one else gets. They will expect the others on the team to get their part of a project in on time, but then expect extra time to get their portion done. They will expect that they will get the shifts that they want and won't understand why other people think that that's not fair. If you have a toxic colleague, you know that their entitlement is a core feature. And initially, you may have thought, wow, okay. And the hypocrisy can be quite astounding. You almost think like they're going to sort of break out of it and laugh at it and like it's a joke. It's not a joke. They may pull stunts like yammering on about how everyone needs to pull their weight, but then make a fuss if they are asked to do as much work as others or show up as much as everyone else has to. They may fight for everyone to have to work back in the office, but then expect to be allowed a hybrid approach when it works for them. Fifth, toxic colleagues are very likely to steal your work or take credit for it. Now, this can sometimes be in-your-face stuff, literally putting their name on a report that you wrote or claiming that, or taking credit for that they closed a sale that they did not close. Often it's quite a bit more subtle. You start talking in meeting about something you did, and they jump on and claim it was both of you doing it together or that they had contributed a lot. They may talk to a boss or to leadership and present work that you largely did as work that was equally shared. They may talk with you about an idea at happy hour or even on a weekend, and then pitch that idea of yours without you present and claim it as their own. You may be literally gobsmacked if you watch them do this. And here's the thing, and without documentation to show that it was your work, you may watch a colleague, this colleague, get praised for your hard work and creative ideas. Sixth, narcissistic folks will triangulate. Narcissistic and toxic folks are masterful at this, and this triangulation can go up or down. They may become cozy with senior leadership and use those relationships as a way to hold more power in the workplace, or they may pal around with employees that may be your direct reports or subordinates and create factions where you find yourself in an us versus them. Toxic colleagues will put extra time into fostering relationships with whomever they need in the workplace so they can hold more power than others at their same level. And they will stop at nothing. They will attempt to foster social relationships outside of work with these other people or use other relationships they may have. For example, someone they meet in church or other religious communities that you work with, or because their kids go to school with the boss's kids. Whatever it may be, they will find a way in. And once they do that, they will craft a relationship with these folks that will give them a marked advantage and positions them in a way so that they can harness these relationships with others in the workplace to their advantage. Seventh, toxic colleagues will be able to get intel from you under the guise of you guys being pals. The toxic colleague, again, because you're at similar levels, may foster a sense of friendship in a manner that can be disarming. And as a result, you may let down your guard. They will build trust with you. It'll feel safe because you're at the same level. You may not, again, hold your guard the way you would or hold back the way you would maybe with a more senior colleague, nor will you be as perhaps careful as you would be with someone who reports to you. And as they cultivate this trust, they will get information from you. Maybe it'll be idle gossip and chatter that they then share with others, or a rule you may have broken, like you claimed to be sick on a day you extended a vacation and you showed them the pictures of you surfing that day. Or as noted already, you share ideas that you're just sort of brainstorming you have and that they may then poach as their own. Narcissistic toxic colleagues kind of play it out like a chess match. And what may feel like a genuine friendship, or at least they try to make it feel like a genuine friendship, may simply be them getting you close enough to get information that will empower them further. An eighth thing you may see with a toxic colleague is that they will often act like they are victims. They will easily fall into the role of being the wronged party, especially when things don't go their way, that they have to work more than everyone else, and they are being made to take up the slack, and that it's not fair that they have to do X or Y because someone else is on maternity leave, or nothing is fair to them in the workplace. This victim stuff actually is very much occurs right in sort of lockstep with the passive-aggressive stuff, and over time may be so exhausting that folks find it easier to do stuff themselves than to have to listen to one more victimized rant. Toxic colleagues are, in their fashion, a lot more unhealthy and even at times more dangerous than toxic bosses. Because sometimes you're a bit surprised by them. You often don't see them coming. And they may take advantage of trust in a way that other people in the workplace can't. And as you can imagine, a narcissistic, toxic colleague doesn't want to stay at the same level as you for too long, and will always be trying to find a way to either be advanced or get paid the same as you, even though they've come along later or don't, they haven't done the same amount of time, but not work as hard. In a workplace with toxic and narcissistic colleagues, you've got to get into the habit of documenting, saving emails and messages, and as unfortunate as it is, you're going to have to keep your cards and play your cards close to your chest. And as always, I'm going to remind you, I got this new book coming out. Check it out. Link is there. Hope you pre-order it. Thanks again.